And
right.
welcome back, guys.
I don't know how to begin with this episode. Shall I say good morning or good evening?
For me, it's good
Yes,
morning.
it's morning in California.
Not good
Eh?
afternoon.
Yep.
Good evening, Philippines. It is now 11:05 in the evening. That's Manila Standard Time. We have a very special guest. She's a Lord of the Rings fan, and from the poster, I saw her wearing a Lord of the Rings costume. Am I right?
No, it's actually promoting my own fantasy cartography, but it looks a bit
Yes,
Lord of the Ringish. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, the slide guy made a poster for our page, and it's really cool that we get to talk about this now because when I watched Lord of the Rings, I was still in college, and it's been a decade
hmm
since what was the last one?
Yeah, the first one came out like 20 years ago, so it was about
Yeah, it's
2001, I think,
really
or something like that.
Yep,
The first one.
2001.
So yeah, so it's 20 years ago since I saw the first one, and that was kind of
it's
that was a completely new type of movie. It was fantastic. Nothing like it had been done before. Now
Mm.
we've seen like many other things,
yeah, and
epic fantasy since, but before then there was nothing that was really epic and serious. There was some silly ones, there was some cute ones from for kids and stuff, but nothing serious mainstream that was really fantasy. So that
yeah,
was
back in
yeah.
time,
hmm
I thought here in the Philippines there are two different rivals. I mean,
hmm
sets of pop culture fans
Yeah.
with different tastes, and they kind of debate about which is the better franchise,
Okay.
Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, and I was on the Lord of the Rings
Mm.
side.
Yeah. Well,
But
Harry Potter
uh,
is big almost around the world too. So in
yeah,
Europe and North America, especially Europe, I think Harry Potter is really
Mhm.
Europe, really
yeah,
in vogue and common too. So for me, Lord of the Rings way more than Harry Potter. But I'm the generation that kind of read Lord of the Rings for the first and only fantasy that was available when I grew up. So I'm in my mid 50s. So I'm kind of too old for Harry Potter that way. I like the movies though, but it was not written for me. But it's still very cool stories. Yeah,
yeah. During our debates with my friends during coffee breaks,
yeah,
I would always say the Lord of the Rings is way better. But I don't know. Back during those days, I wasn't hanging out with the Sly Guy yet that much. So maybe the Sly Guy can share more about his thoughts.
yeah.
But to be honest, I
Mm.
was having a hard time trying to refresh my memory about the movie. So for tonight, the Sly Guy will do more of the talking, and I'll focus more on the visuals.
Yes, that's right. So, you kind of said that you watched all Lord of the Ring movies, including
Oh yeah.
Hobbit. Is
Mhm.
that correct?
Yep, I've seen them all, and I've seen them in director's cut. That's why I love them. Especially the second movie got much better when you stretched it out. A lot of people say, "Oh, it was too much," but I loved it. It gave the story time to sink in, and because there's so many beautiful landscapes and cut scenes in between that I think are really cool, and that kind of added to the visuals of the film, especially, so to speak, and you get a chance to elaborate on some of the side stories that I think was really cool. Yeah.
Oh, speaking of side stories, did Tom
hmm
Bombadil show up in the director's cut?
No, he didn't, but not directly. But they made an homage to him in the second movie. In the in the books, he's on in the first book. When they, excuse me, in the movies, they actually when they it was in the second movies when the hobbies when they met the Ent Lord and they
Hmm.
that's when they actually had the End Lord he was the guy that kind of talked and did he sang some of the Bombadil songs, and he calmed down the trees and stuff like that that Tom Bombadil did in the
Oh.
books. So they made an homage to him, and I think they did it in a really good way. Yeah, so because Tom Bombadil was not the what I was the most interested in the books. It was kind of a it was something you read. When I read the books at the beginning, it was like, oh, what
Mm.
is this? I want to get to the real story, so to speak, and the
Yes.
action. So they and apparently Peter Jackson felt the same way, so he kind of skipped it in the early part of the movie, and then he kind of made an homage into it. So some of the message and stuff from Tom Bombadil is in the movies, but it's not Tom Bombadil himself.
Right, right. Because I wasn't
Yeah.
that interested in Tom Bombadil or Goldberry, for that matter,
Exactly. It was kind of
before.
one of these. Yeah, I wanted more action and orcs and,
Mm.
and battles and stuff. So it's not talking to trees. But that's when I read
Yeah.
it when I was like 15, 20 years or something. I wanted more. Now I think I actually read the books a few years ago again, and then I try to read them every 10 years or so, and then actually kind of I enjoyed it more, so to speak. And actually, I enjoyed reading the books more after seeing the movies because that actually helped me to get over or it helped me visualize the books much better. So for me, I think the books and the movie, even if they diverge slightly here and there, like in Tom Bombadil, I still think it's beneficial for they add to each other, so to speak. To have read the books, it's much better when you see the movies, and to have seen the movies when you read the books again is it's kind of beneficial because you can visualize things and you can understand more of the background. So yeah, so I think it's one of the
Mhm.
best adaptations of the book material ever on the big screen. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But one thing that they didn't show on the film was Isildur and Elrond and the War of the Ring, where they actually
Yeah,
go against Sauron.
they only have these kind of snippets here and there. So they have,
Yeah.
and that was something they showed more in the director's cut. They showed more of that story with the Isildur and the ring and how he got killed and the story of the ring, so to speak. They showed a little bit more on it in the long versions of the movies. They showed a few more minutes, not much, but a few more minutes, just a few key points.
Oh, okay, so it was like a full fight scene between Isildur and Sauron.
Not really, not a full fight scene. He
Oh,
basically didn't fight in the movies at all. He just picked up the stump of the sword and cut off the finger. That was it. So
okay.
so so they did it very very quickly in the movie, so to speak. It was not much of a fight scene. Sauron was simply killing him off, and he had one last little chance with Sauron's foot on him, and he cut off the finger just using the stump of the sword, and he cut off the finger, and that defeated Sauron. So yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
right.
But now
And
that's
it also,
spoilers. People who haven't seen the movies, we should not tell too many spoilers. Yeah.
oh no, everyone's seen it here.
Oh, okay, good. Yep.
It's no problem because everybody's seen it here.
Hmm.
Now, they also say because I got into a discussion with my cousin a few years. This is like we're talking 2013. This was way back.
Hmm.
He told me, okay, when he asked me who my favorite character was, of course my favorite character, all time favorite, would always be Thorin Oakenshield.
Legolas.
Um, I know for Oaken Shield, the guy from the
Mm.
Dwarf King from the
Hmm.
Hobbit. He's my favorite.
Yeah.
Then when I ask him who his favorite is, he'd go, "Oh, my favorite is Tom Bombadil." And then why? He's go, and then he goes, "You know why? Because he's got really powerful magic, and he's the only one in the story who can go against all the ring wraiths and Sauron by himself." And I was like, "What? Are you serious?" And then he has this story about Goldberry has because I think he his songs have this magic in them, and then he just has all this power that he can control the entire forest. do
Yeah,
as
he's like a
well.
cool druid type in a way. He's
Mm.
kind of from in D&D terms, he's like a cool singing druid, kind of bard druid type. It's kind of it's kind of cool that, and I see him very druidic now when I played D&D for years, and then thinking back on the books, he's some kind of druid that is more kind of untraditional but very druidic in a way.
Right, right, yeah, just like kind of like a druid. But another character, note who's actually worthy of discussion is Bjorn,
Mm-hmm.
the
Yep.
skin changer.
Yep. Yep.
Because they say that his race was actually wiped out by the orcs, and he's just so big and he's just so strong that I find it hard to believe that an entire race of big giants were
But they might be
annihilated
not
by.
that many of them, and they might be living solitary by themselves and stuff like that. And the
Mm,
orcs are many. So I see, but on an individual level, yeah, it's one of the strongest characters ever. And it was kind of funny in the Hobbit movies. He was played by a Swedish actor, a very
oh, he
famous
was.
Swedish actor. So yeah, so that was kind of a cool connection because I grew up in Sweden, so I moved to California 10 years ago. It's kind of it was kind of cool that the in the
Okay,
movies.
right. And
Yep.
oh, there's our good friend Gollum
Oh
or
yes,
Smeagol
Gollum there. Yeah,
in
My
and
my.
precious.
yes, precious. And yeah, that was one of the I think really cool new things in the movies. It was the first time they someone made a computer generated character that looked real and functioned in the movie. And I think it was the
Mhm.
first movie that actually had a fully computer generated character, and they used motion capture and all that technology. 20 years ago, that was brand new. That now it's mainstay. It's used in videos,
Yep.
TV series, games, and everything. But 20, 25 years ago, when they recorded the movie, that's then that was new. That was kind of eh, cutting edge technology back then. So I think that was really really cool that they managed to pull that off.
I wonder if there's
Right.
someone out there who can cosplay this guy.
Well,
Oh, there are a lot
someone,
of people here who can
yeah,
cosplay
someone
him.
might be able to. Yeah, you just have to go on a skinny diet for the next like couple of years. Yeah, be on starvation diet or something, then you can do it. Yeah,
Yeah, and not go out for like 2 years so that your skin
exactly.
becomes
Stay
pale
inside
enough.
and starve yourself. So please don't do it. Don't try to
Eat
do it.
nothing but
It's
veggies.
yeah, exactly. Don't try to do it, please. Yeah, it's dangerous. Yeah,
Yes, it's really dangerous, so we don't advise cosplaying as Gollum. And if you cosplay as him, you probably won't be able to get into the mall anyway because
yeah.
security is gonna take you out.
hmm
They're
Yeah.
not even gonna allow
Nobody
you
will
because of the
believe that
way.
it's your costume.
Okay, but which Gollum do you like better? The Gollum in The Hobbit, met, where he first met Bilbo, or the one where he was already accompanying Frodo?
That was I liked him more at the end, so to speak, at when he became part of the group in some ways, because
Hmm.
that's when he's more of a character. He plays roles. He has the Smeagol Gollum kind of interaction. He talks to himself and stuff like that. He becomes more of a multi-dimensional character. In the beginning, he's just a little monster. I get that sense. I get
Hmm.
that's my feel to it. But the more he's integrated into the story, and he has these kind of arguments with Frodo and Sam and stuff, then I think he functions much better. He gives more to the story, and I think that's really that's beneficial, and it was so well played, and it was, yeah, so it was fantastic. Yeah.
Nice. And in any of your campaigns, did you ever try to create a character just like him, like an
Not
NPC
really
who?
like him. I try to stay away from because I run my games in a world of Greyhawk that is very Tolkien-esque in a lot of ways, meaning you have elves,
Mhm.
dwarfs, hobbits, and gnomes and stuff. So in some ways it's kind of similar because Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson and stuff who invented it, they were so influenced by Lord of the Rings and Middle Earth. But I try to
Mm.
stay away from things that are taken straight out of the movies or straight out of books and stuff, and try to make my own versions of them. So I have small, creepy, crawly characters here and there, but I try to. I have never modeled anyone exactly like Gollum, Smeagol, that has been kind of consumed by one little artifact like that. So I try to, but it's one of these. I think that for any D&D campaign, you should really look at characters like Smeagol and Gollum because they you can use similar type of function. You can have like a magical effect or an item or something like that a person gets completely obsessed with. As a cult member,
Mhm.
he's a really good kind of I think role model in a way. And you can switch out the ring to a god or a deity or some demon lord or something like that, and kind of substitute that in, and then he will function as some sort of cultist or something for some deprived demon lord or something for your campaign if
Mhm.
you want to. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. And that's Gollum. And of course, yes, his character has a lot of depth into it because you don't know whether he's gonna turn on you or whether you can trust him because
Exactly. That's the thing. He has
he's
that duality.
unpredictable.
He's kind of he wants to help the party beast. He wants to reach there, but he also wants to stop them. So it's kind of yeah, that mechanism is and kind of power struggle is really cool. And if you can pull that off in a role playing game campaign, then you have it made, so to speak, because that gives it a lot of fun. And it can be tricky at times, but in a campaign to when you play tabletop role playing games to kind of have this dynamic and stuff. But if you do it right and the players are in on it and like it, then you can really get it going with some role playing and then you can use a little bit of mechanics and stuff built into it as well.
Okay, way to go. So
Yeah.
another discussion I had with one of my cousins a couple of years back. We had this what if situation. So the situation was, what if Gandalf took the ring from Isildur?
Yeah.
So what if, or better yet, let's just say not Isildur but Frodo. Instead of giving the ring to Frodo, what if Gandalf took the ring?
I
So
guess he would have
how
eventually
different
succumbed
would
to
the
it, I
movie be?
think. Yeah, I think he eventually would have succumbed to it and become the new Sauron in some
Okay.
ways. And in some ways that will be kind of a cool story if you wanted to have another in between chapter, so to speak. You could have Gandalf, or meaning if you want to have a long term Lord of the Rings story for your role playing game campaign or something, and you want to prolong it by an age, then you should have Galadriel or Gandalf or some of the good
Hmm.
powerful characters take the ring for themselves and then become the evil overlord, overthrow Sauron, and then continue the story for another major chapter or an age, and then you can reintroduce the good guys again and stuff. So that's a way to, if you in your role playing game campaign, if you want to feel like this is going too fast, they get to the end too fast, then you can insert that and add another extra chapter as a major hurdle, so to speak. That the good guy turned out falls and turns evil and goes on a killing spree and want to take over the world, so to speak. But on the other hand, I don't recommend to do a Lord of the Rings style campaign where you have
Hmm.
it's the world or bust, so to speak. So where you have like, oh, if we don't destroy the ring, the world is going to go under. Those can be really tricky because if the characters fail, the world goes under. So you should always have a plan
Hmm.
B. So in that case, you should have probably less climatic campaigns. Don't try to have the whole world go under. Take like one country or one clan or one religion or one something that is not the whole world at stake, so to speak. I think
Hmm.
that's my advice to don't go for the end of the world campaigns. Try to go for the end of a little bit of the world campaign, maybe. Yeah.
Right, because I'll just give you idea of how it went because we tried playing it out
Yeah.
in a campaign, and it was insane because
Mm-hmm.
Gandalf, who took the ring, he didn't actually want to use it in the campaign, but of course you have to do a corruption check.
Yeah.
So every time the ring wraiths would attack, well, as long as Gandalf had the ring, he had full control of the ring wraiths.
Mm-hmm.
So even the Witch King of Angmar. So later in the game, when he found out that Saruman betrayed him, okay, he used the ring wraiths to attack Saruman's tower. So the
Mm-hmm.
Ents weren't there. Frodo wasn't as much involved anymore. It was more of Gandalf, Legolas, and Aragorn who were there. So Gandalf ends up killing Saruman. Okay, his first actual kill. So he goes
Yeah.
down the road of corruption
Yeah. And
until
you know.
finally, when
Oh,
they're
oh, please go on.
oh, no, sorry, go on.
Oh, I was going to say with Saruman, you have a good example. What would happen if Gandalf would have taken the ring? He would have been Saruman. So because that
Yes,
that you have it, and but Saruman was weaker because he didn't even have to get the ring. He was corrupted just by Mir's presence,
by
and
the
it was
Palantir.
there. Yeah, but Gandalf would probably have become like a second Saruman if he had taken the ring. Yeah.
Oh yes, definitely. So he would have been Gandalf the White, but the evil white
Hmm. Yeah. Hmm.
Gandalf. But in
Yep.
the end, what actually happened was all of them attack Mordor with Gandalf leading, using the ring wraiths to attack Sauron. They defeat Sauron. Gandalf becomes the steward of Gondor refuses to give up his throne to Aragorn. Gandalf gets angry, so he kills the steward and he installs Aragorn there. But
Hmm.
Aragorn didn't see this as heroic, and he saw Gandalf was getting mad with power, so he tries to attack Gandalf, and Gandalf and Aragorn turn on each other, and then it becomes a whole new war in the
Yeah.
Third Age. And then instead of going to the land of the Immortals, Galadriel, who is bonded, who is connected with Mithrandir or Gandalf, decides to side with him because now the elves are with now even the elves are divided. You've got the elves on Legolas's side, you've got the elves on Galadriel's side, and now it's a new third age with
Hmm. Yeah.
an evil wizard overlord. So it's like having a Gandalf Saruman guy, which never we weren't able to finish it because
Okay. Now that.
because life happens, everybody became
Yeah.
busy. But
Hmm. Yep.
yeah,
That's the
we
problem with
played
role playing game.
until
Camp they go on for
mm,
years.
oh yes, definitely. And there's Aragorn, man, the hero of the hero of the main hero, the swordsman, the ranger of
Hmm.
Shout
Yep.
outs to Roach Squeta.
Edgemore.
Early bird,
Oh
bro.
yes, our early bird, early the bird pa. Hello, Sir Roach. Yes, he's one of our most avid viewers, and
Okay.
we love him
Awesome.
very much.
Hmm.
Happy holidays too, Sir Roach, because we work in the same place and we don't we didn't have any work Thursday and Friday. There we have it. So now about the Lord of the Rings universe. Do they also celebrate holidays just like we do, like
I'm
summer
sure they
solstice?
do. I'm
Or
sure they do. And since a lot of it they are more agricultural, that they are like the world was in old times. So I bet that they have at least some harvest holidays, especially the hobbits need. They probably have lots of
mm,
holidays so they can eat yummy food often, so to speak. So have a chance to a reason to go and visit each other and eat a lot of yummy food. So I think that the hobbits probably have more holidays than others, but on the other hand, Middle Earth doesn't seem to be that religious. They don't seem to have gods in the traditional sense.
Yeah, I
So
noticed
so
that
so
too.
yeah, so and no priests and stuff. So in that way,
Mm.
they have they probably have less religious holidays, but they probably have traditional ones, and I'm sure they have things like harvest and planting and stuff like that. So and New Year's and birthdays. Hobbit seems to be crazy
Mm,
about birthdays,
yes.
so then you have lots of holidays automatically if you celebrate birthdays. So yeah.
Yeah, they might even have a holiday similar to 4th of July because
Hmm.
they've got fireworks
Yeah,
in their
exactly.
world.
They have.
Really good
Hmm.
fireworks.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, um, in the movie, there was this animosity between Boromir and Aragorn
Hmm.
in it. So, let's just say Boromir survived up until the time when he meets Faramir until the final battle. How differently would the Return of the King would have been?
Yeah, that would have been interesting because if Boromir could withstand the temptation of the ring, he will be a competitor to Aragorn in a lot of ways
Hmm.
because he will be yeah, because he will be the 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 son of the custodian of the throne of Gondor, and
Hmm.
Arathon will be the heir of the king of Gondor. So that means that those two lines will be competing, but they will be on the same side. So that will be interesting because that if you keep that kind of power struggle alive longer in the story, that could come
Hmm.
and become the next chapter afterwards, so to speak. And now Boromir is gone, and the Faramir line is only represented by Faramir. So
Hmm.
that the custodian line, so to speak. The So it's kind of interesting if you kept Boromir and he will be ambiguous, then you could build, if you want to
Hmm.
build a new chapter after the fall of, oh, the fall of Sauron and all that, so to speak, you can keep these breadcrumbs if you want to have a similar story. So that's a possibility. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Otherwise,
it
you would
would have.
just have too many good guys. If Faramir and Boromir and Aragon and all of them become good, then you don't have too much of a story, which is what Lord of the Rings. At the end, if everything is wonderful and there are no bad guys around, more than Sauron. Or sorry, Saruman is the one that kind of. But he's defeated too and killed off. But then you have Grima is the only one that he went back to the Shire and caused some trouble there.
Yes.
So that
So
was
Grima
that
had.
little, yeah.
Right, and in the books, however, unlike the movie where they killed him off in the
Exactly.
tower,
They
yeah, he
yeah,
went back to the Shire, and then he fought
yeah.
the hobbits fought him.
Yep. 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 Which is kind of, but I guess in the movies they made Saruman, he was so powerful compared to the hobbits that it would have been too much of a battle for the hobbits to win over him. But in the books, that's what they did, and I thought it was kind of cool that Saruman lost his power and the hobbits gained power. So at the end they ran him out of Shire, and I forgot
Hmm.
if they killed him or if they just defeated him and kind of chased him off. I'm not sure which. But that's
Right.
something that Peter Jackson could have used Grima for, because Grima fled, and I think that was part of the movie that they didn't have enough time or budget or something, and to fill it in. But I think that would have been cool to have that as one of the end scenes to stay more true to the books, so that they could have kept fought Grima back in the shower, so to speak. That would have been cool. That would have been a cool end fight when they came home and found Grima had caused some trouble, and then they would have fought Grima. I think that would have been just like with Tom Bombadil. It would be an homage to the books, but not
Yes. Yes.
exactly like the books. So I missed that. I was looking forward to that scene, and then they never had it. But they had one tiny homage because they filmed a vision of the Shire under Saruman rule, where the hobbits
Oh.
were slaves and stuff like that. I think that was in maybe it wasn't all of the movies, but at least it was in the director's cut. It was one little scene, like 10 seconds long or something, where the hobbits were slaves in the Shire under Saruman,
Mm,
or the
yeah.
ring at least. So that, I think that was an homage to the book's ending, so to speak, when they defeated Saruman,
Hmm.
and when he was trying to take over the Shire. But I would like to have seen a couple of more minutes. Would have been great with that.
Yeah. Now, people have rarely seen this, but as a kid, there was this Betamax. We had Betamax back then instead of VHS. There was this Lord of the Rings animation.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yep.
was way back in the 80s, and that's the
Yeah.
very first time I
Yep.
saw Lord of the Rings. And
Mm-hmm.
ever since I've
Yep.
seen that, I don't know if I got hooked to it, but because back then I didn't, before the movies, I haven't read any of the books. I just saw that animation.
Ah, yeah. Yeah, I
And
never saw
actually,
it when it came out. I've seen it afterwards on YouTube or whatever service it was. So I've seen it later on, so to speak. I never saw it before, but there was some especially some of the musics were fantastic. There is, if there is a
mm,
whip, there is a will, or something like that. That was really cool. So it was kind of weird in some ways and cool, and it was also, I think, very well made for its time. You have to realize this is like late 70s, early 80s, or
yes.
I think so. It's like yeah, it's when I was in high school, and which is a very long time ago. Yeah. So that's when he came out. So for its time, he was really well done. It was
Mm,
fantastic. They really, it's a classic old cartoon film. So it doesn't use any models or props or anything. It's a pure cartoon film, but it's done in a cool style. So I must give them that.
yeah, and as a kid, I cried when Gandalf
Mm-hmm.
fell off a cliff because I
Yep.
thought he died back then. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
no,
Yep.
Gandalf. And then
Yep.
you could see Frodo. He was, because I could relate to Frodo because I thought that the hobbits were kids. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
wow,
Yeah.
these kids are
Yeah.
going on this adventure. And then they got a guy like, because Aragorn doesn't look like the Aragorn in the movies. He looked more like He-Man in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
animated
but
series.
we have to realize it was part of his time. Meaning, comics, that was the first golden age, or like part of the, or maybe the second golden age. But it was a golden age of comics back then, and stuff. So that was part of it. And 70s characters look like that. The rugged survivalist we get today in movies that looks more medieval, kind of scruffy, rough looking ranger type. That was not the hero type of the 50s or the
Mm,
60s or the 70s, or maybe even the early 80s. But I like the new Aragon and the style and stuff way more. So I don't want to go back to how they portray things when I was a kid. So I think it's much cooler today when it comes to, now it might change again, because now I start seeing things that look silly stuff. But for some
mhm.
decades now, we've had, I think, cool style and things. So we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely. But if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, definitely fans should watch that animated series.
Oh yeah,
I just
definitely.
visited
Yes.
it.
Because
It's
it's part
the
of the story.
animation. Is
Yeah.
wow. It's like
I have
fluid.
a
It's like just me moving like
I
this.
have a question out of curiosity.
hmm
Anna,
Yeah,
if the Lord of the Rings franchise did not exist, what particular franchise in mind do you think would be your favorite?
That is hard. I'm kind of, I probably would have the latest version of crop of things, like Winter's Coming, like
a Game of
the
Thrones.
yeah, exactly. The Game of Thrones will
Hmm,
probably be high on my list
same
for
here.
stuff. Yeah, but on the other hand, I'm not sure we would have a Game of Thrones if there weren't a Lord of the Rings. We would definitely have the books. I'm pretty sure about that. But we will probably not have a TV series made with hundreds of millions of dollars in budget, so to speak, because Lord of the Rings probably opened up and made it interesting for investors and broadcasters and so on, to the studios and TV studios, to actually plow down enormous amount of money into fantasy. And that was something that Peter Jackson made such a good, and the team behind Lord of the Rings made movies, and they told the stories in a way that opened up for everybody to want to go and watch. In a way, I think that one paved the way for the other ones, and we will probably not have fantasy role playing games like D&D the same way either. It might have taken much longer for them to arrive if it weren't for Lord of the Rings. So I think Lord of the Rings were a good catalyst to bring out a kind of a in a way, I see it as telling the old fairy tales of old in a new way,
Mhm.
so to speak, because that's basically what fantasy, what Lord of the Rings and fantasy and tabletop role playing games. You take old folklore and old superstitions and stuff that people used to have, and then you make a modern version of it. So it's like old medieval fairy tales, old things that people superstition that people believed lived out in the forest or in caves or in lakes or whatever it was, and you make a new cool version of it. That's how I see fantasy, because a lot of these critters and monsters and peoples and whatnot that appear in the stories and the movies and the TV series, they come from superstition and folk belief back in the day, meaning the wizard, the orcs and the elves and the a lot of these tree ants or whatever it is, that those were just
Mhm.
variants and taken from our old superstition and folklore. And I think that's really cool. So in some ways that would have happened anyway, I think. But Lord of the Rings
Mhm.
came early and it made it happen. We will probably had stories without elves and dwarves and hobbits. They will be called something else and they will be slightly different, but the role models will be that there will be magical creatures, there will be dragons and stuff like that, because then we had them back in the old stories. So meaning Tolkien didn't invent any of this. He just made it cool, put them together in a cool story, and tweaked them to make a coherent fantasy world out of a lot of bits and pieces here and there. Meaning he took some predominantly European superstition and stories, but what I'm waiting for, I want to see these from other parts of the world. Meaning we have
Mhm.
there are superstition and old folklore and traditions and stuff from all over the world that could be super cool. Meaning we have that the whole world is full of stories like this. Now, the Lord of the Rings and traditional modern fantasy is very European in its origin,
Mhm.
Mhm.
but we
Mhm.
have things from the Middle East, from Africa, from Central Asia, Russia, South Asia, China,
Mhm.
meaning Philippines, you all over the world. We people have these kind of cool stories and traditions and stuff, and you should not plagiarize the tradition straight off. I don't think that works. You need to
Mhm.
tweak it into some sort of modern form, and then use game mechanics and stuff, and then write stories about it. Use game mechanic to create games, create video games and stuff like that. I think that should be more kind of cool that is tweaked to whatever local and make a modern version of your old superstition and
I
folklore and
think
traditions. Yeah.
the closest game that we have
Yeah.
to what you're saying, we have a game called. Uh, do you remember Sly Guy? The game called Anito.
Anito, yes, I remember that.
Yeah, it's
It was very ethnic
ba-
Filipino,
based
and
on some sort of local mythology here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some folklore characters. It's based on magic and beasts.
Mm-hmm.
It had a quite a successful run for a while,
Yeah.
but because of competitions, some of the younger generation here, they kind of forget its existence because there are new stuff to play. A lot of, I mean, gaming is a very competitive field right now.
Yeah.
But if you were to ask me if we had something similar to Lord of the Rings, I think I think that's the closest. It's Anito.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
I think you
yeah,
still
there's
play
also
that. I, I think it still exists somewhere in the internet.
Yeah. But I
and
hope
there's
that we could.
an
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
sorry, wait, there's actually another one, a movie called or a series called Encantadia in the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
It's about fairies this time, but not your traditional fairy with the wings and the magic wands. These are fairies with
Yeah.
swords. They're just like
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
yeah, so they're fairies with swords. Um, they have kobolds actually. So
Mm-hmm.
one thing I really like about the series is how they made kobolds race. So they didn't have the traditional orcs. They were more like they're like half demon enemies that
Mm-hmm.
they had. But the third race that they had were kobolds. So I was just amazed at how they thought of using kobold characters to help the fairies at the time. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cliche. There's a fairy of fire, water, air, earth, and they have gems that they have to protect. And they jump between the real world and the fantasy world. So that's also a good thing. So people can relate to it.
Yeah.
And the and yeah, basically, they use magic. They've got a system that uses magic, so it's something I'd like to see turned into an actual campaign. But if
Yeah.
you do have the time, just go to YouTube,
Yeah.
Encantadia. It's free to watch. You could just binge
Cool.
watch all day.
Yeah.
It's a kiddie like TV series.
Ah, yes, it was made for kids, so
Mm-hmm.
the
But a lot of
stories.
this is originally made for kids. Remember, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit is a child story. It's I think it was originally one of J.R. Tolkien's bedtime stories for his kids. So that was, I think that was the original, for at least from I remember from what people said, that was how he invented the first stories, and then they turned into more deep stories with a lot of more content and stuff for more of an adult audience. And I remember the first Bilbo translation into Swedish. That was the first time I read Tolkien. That was very much written for kids. It was, your
Mm,
target audience were probably like the 10-12 year olds or something maybe. So it was, had a lot of the language was simplified and more for kids. And I remember I wasn't very impressed. And then I read the original English version, and I was like, wow, this is much cooler. And then I read
yes.
the original Lord of the Rings in English, and wow. But then there was Lord of the Rings translation came out for the three books in Swedish. That was way better in Swedish, much better. Now they have made a new Bilbo translation that is actually really good. So it's kind of, it's, but the original one was not done at all. It was a Swedish adaptation for kids, not a translation of the Bilbo. So that one was very disappointing for me. But
Oh.
but the so it's kind of interesting how you can kind of take the same story and gear it towards either kids or more teenagers or more grown-ups and stuff, so you can tell a grittier, more dark, kind of gripping version
Mhm.
for adults that you don't hold back, so to speak, and you take a long time, and you have a lot of backstories that simmers in the background and stuff that kids would not, they will lose it and not be interested in stuff like that. But subtle kind of power play and stuff like that, you can build that in as for a story for adults. You can have a lot of more subtle backstories, and then you can have things that simmer in the background, political intrigue and stuff like that. That way more for that than for kids. I know, at least I would have, when I was like a teenager or below, I would have lost interest quickly in stuff like that. Now I can
Mhm.
read and watch things for hours to get to the conclusion. That's part of the fun. So
Yes.
so so yeah, so it's different. The same thing when you adapt it into a role-playing game campaign, also depends on who your players are and what your play style is. I think some campaigns can go on for years and have enormous amount of political intrigue and stuff. Others is more like have fun, cast spells, kill things, and haul in the treasure quickly. So yeah.
Right. But I'm just curious. They said you said that it was an adaptation of a
Yeah.
Hobbit. So what did they change
They
to
changed
make it
they
more
changed out the
consistent?
orcs to some old Swedish monster that was called Vettar, meaning there were some some kind of weird
Mm.
little evil spirits that used to live according to Swedish folklore in the Swedish forests and stuff like that. So they kind of they took away the Middle Earth out of it, so to speak, and made it some sort of
Oh,
old
okay.
superstition Swedish kind of story, which was kind of weird, and kept the hobbits, and that was kind
Mhm.
of they translated all the names and of people, races, and places and stuff. That
Oh,
was
okay,
kind
I
of
see.
a sad bit, yeah. And
Mm.
it didn't fare well.
I think Sly
Oh,
Guy,
yes.
we can we can ask at least last two questions to Anna.
Okay, definitely. So,
Yeah.
now in The Hobbit, okay, how did you find, like, how did the foreign's story impact you when you read it? Because when I first, because I'll be the first to admit, when I first saw the movie about Thorin and his history about what happened to what happened to his home when Smog invaded it, and then
Yeah.
the elves didn't help him. It really hit home. I literally cried when I first saw that part. It was like, oh man, I can relate to this. It's that this scene looks really familiar. So, in all of the characters of the Hobbit, which how impactful was Thorin's story to you?
Well, for me, it was something that I saw that, ooh, I can turn this into a D&D campaign. It was like a dragon comes and
Oh wow.
steals your home and invades your part of the world. That is like, wow, yes. So that was a type of story that I was like, okay, I'm going to read this and I'm going to think about. And it got me to think about this how dragon works in the world. That was to me
Mhm,
was the takeaway. And I started to thinking, how do I want to run my dragons in my D&D campaigns? What are
mhm,
their motivations? How do they work and stuff like that? And so for me it was a good I was I was gripped by the possibilities of the story. More like, okay,
mhm,
dragons, yeah, they come and steal whole kingdoms and they lock up all the money and then they terrorize everybody and stealing their home. And to me, that was a really cool part of the story that I could use in D&D campaigns. So it was a huge that in many ways that was more of an inspiration to my D&D gaming than the story about the ring and Sauron, because that was more like a example of what not to do, because the end of the world,
mhm,
Sauron or Smaug invading the dwarven kingdom, that was kind of more of a manageable catastrophe, so to speak. That's something I think
mhm,
could be really really cool for a D&D campaign. You can have like a dragon coming in and stealing a kingdom, and then you have to fight the dragon to get it back. I think that could be a great campaign arc, so to speak. And Smaug, I run my dragons a little bit. They are not as powerful as Smaug because he was kind of
mhm.
he was way over the top in size, and also the amount of gold he had stolen was so
Oh
much
yes,
that he will be inflation for a century after after if
yes.
they kill him. There will be so much gold released in the world that you will, yeah, you will have need a ton of gold to buy your loaf of bread afterwards. So but it was that was
Oh
part of the
yes.
movie. You need to have visually have so much in order to make it look cool. So I can understand that. So yeah.
All right, Anna, for our last
Okay.
question. Stuff like this, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Marvel, DC, Star Wars, they tend to develop some sort of obsessive level of fandom to kids. What advice can you give to parents to make sure that their kids are still in control of themselves?
I think I don't have any kids myself, but I think what would work the best is that you should share the experience with your kids, meaning play
Mm,
your games with your kids and make it into a family event. If your kids are being completely obsessed with a video game or something similar, play that game with your kids. Share the stuff. That is the way to both, I think, stay really in touch with your kids and to understand what your kids are doing. And that way you can also to have a discussion with your kid, and you can do it like at family evenings. You can say that, okay, 3 evenings in these hours a week, we sit and play this and we do this and we really nerd ourselves crazy about it. And then you kind of show your kids, okay, now we need to do our homework, we need to do other stuff that are important. So I think you should try and share and join your kids in the nerddom at the times and show that it's an indulgence that is good and enriching in life if you do it in reasonable amount of hours and you don't go overboard with it, so to speak.
I think that's a very cool advice, like I
Yeah,
remember
it is.
well back in high school when I became an obsessed fan of Dragon Ball Z and Street Fighter video game. Apparently, my dad isn't someone I can trust to enjoy the same stuff, and it's really nice to hear from someone like you give that kind of advice.
Yeah, I
We could
think
have
that.
we could have bonded together if
Yep.
only he was
Mhm.
open minded to things like this. Anyway, Sly Guy, it's getting late. Would you like to promote the Portable podcast?
Actually, I'd like to promote the maps Anna has been making because I shared this with the Philippine Dungeon Dragons tabletop groups as well. So if you
Yeah,
guys are
awesome.
listening, okay, she actually has free maps.
Hmm.
So we don't have to
Yep.
go to Power Books anymore to buy expensive books to get maps.
Good,
Um,
good.
you can download their maps for free. Do you have a page where you share
Yeah,
these maps, Anna?
I posted in chat here, so I post my links here to my website and my YouTube, and I have a special repository website where all my maps and heraldry and stuff is to be found, and it's for the world of Greyhawk, the original D&D setting, so to speak. So I have a project, a Patreon project that people pay me to actually map the setting in
Wow.
high detail. So yeah.
Wow,
And then
that's a
I
dream
do
job
stuff for
right
other
there.
publishers and stuff too. So yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, that's like every Filipino geek's dream job. Either making a map or by making your own campaign. Yeah, it's really very, very cool. It's really been a pleasure speaking with you, Anna. So, Anna, do you have any parting words to our fellow Filipino geeks?
Oh, I just wanted to
Who
say
make
thank you so much for the chance to come on and talk to you guys. And it's so wonderful to see that fantasy nerddom and stuff is alive and well in different parts of the world. It's just amazing. It's fantastic. So thank
Okay,
you.
So, guys, that's the
there are the
link
links right there.
to reach out to her and find out more about what's the latest with Anna Meyer. These are the links for Facebook and for YouTube viewers. That's the link. All right. Now I just want to promote some of our other platforms and stuff. We have. Wait, I think I missed that slide. All right. Again, this one. Yeah. We have a Twitter account. We have a YouTube channel. We're live on YouTube and on Facebook right now. We have a Walker Strip account. What is Walker Strip? It's a Filipino-made social media app. Now, for people who are curious about it, just download the app. It's free on Google Play. Soon it will be available on iOS. It's free to download. You can use geeks underscore hideout as the referral username before you create your personal username. Now introduce the app to other people and let them use your personal username as their referral, and that will
Mhm.
give you 1 point. Every person is equal to 1 point. 1 point is equal to 1 peso, right? So it can be monetized instantly, and if the friends who use your username as their referral, if they travel and use this app to book hotel tours and travel packages, you get a commission. All right. That's Walker Street. Sly Guy, anything else that you wanna tell our audience before we say good night or good morning?
Yeah, good morning. And once again, thank you so much, Manna, for being a
Oh,
part of
thank
our
you.
show. Yes, and but hopefully, because the Filipino tabletop RPG community has been silent for the past few years, but due to the pandemic, a lot of people started playing again. They
Hmm.
became available since most of them
Yeah,
work from home.
yeah,
A lot of groups are showing up, and hopefully, we keep
wonderful.
up this momentum. And even if,
Yeah,
as we go back to the new normal, people still okay, just go to their local neutral grounds and play a session there, either with
hmm,
miniatures, maps, just or just plain
yeah.
imagination with the modules. Just
Exactly,
buy a
and
book
thanks
and
to the internet, we can
play.
start playing online more too. So more and more people have access to the internet, and the tools are getting easier to use, cheaper, and stuff. So that's also increased the possibilities of gaming and the gaming across the world too. If you're willing to go up early or get up early or stay up late in the evening, you can actually play with it, people in the other parts of the world too.
Yeah, and then
All
when
right.
everything goes back to normal,
Yeah.
we're gonna have a
Tomorrow we're gonna talk
fantasy.
about Tomorrow we're gonna talk about playing cards, trading cards, like Marvel cards, Pokemon cards, and most especially
Yep, Magic the
NBA
Gathering
trading cards.
and NBA. Yep.
And again, see you guys again tomorrow evening. Same Facebook page. What time is it gonna be tomorrow, Sly?
Tomorrow it'll be 10 p.m. Manila time.
Right. And once again, thank you, Anna Mayer,
Thank
the
you.
Sly Guy, and this has been DJ David Beat, uh, reminding you guys to stay safe, especially during these days. Good night. I think it's good morning already. Have
Yep. Good
and
morning.
enjoy the weekend. Goodbye.
All right. Bye, guys.
Awesome.